Solo motor camping in your 60s? Here's how I make it work, and you can too. Hi, my name's Peter, and I love motorcycles and motorcycle camping. I've been camping all my life, and I've been motorcycling off and on for 50 years. I travel around Western Canada and the US, and I created this channel to share my experiences with the world and to encourage others to get out on their bike and enjoy the great outdoors. Subscribe to come along with me on my journeys. In this video, I want to address some of the specific challenges we face as older riders going solo motorcycle camping. It's really not that different from what other riders face. But let's be honest, our bodies don't do what they used to do. When I was in my 20s, I could take a tent or even a tarp and head out into the backwoods or on a motorcycle without a care about where I was going to sleep. Sometimes I ended up wet and cold and I could laugh it off the next day. I'm still in pretty good shape, but I can get cramped up. I don't sleep so well, I've got to keep track of some meds, and I got to really eat more carefully. Just the normal aging stuff. So a little more planning is necessary. That brings me to my first point, which is why fitness matters. I don't like going to the gym, and I've never been any kind of athlete, but I need to maintain a certain level of fitness to ensure that my moto camping adventures are manageable and enjoyable. This is not a how to get fit video. But unless you have some serious issues, you can get to something like my level of fitness with a few months of consistent effort. I got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes last year, so I have the extra incentive of keeping active to control my blood sugar. There's not much moto camping in Canada in the winter, and you can check out my video of camping in March to see what happens if you go too early. I did it so you don't have to. But all winter I'm walking and thinking about how that will benefit me when I get back to camping. Here's how I stay fit for moto camping. My usual walk involves climbing over a hill in a local park. That's about 150 meters or 500 foot of elevation gain. It's not Mount Everest, but it's enough to get me out of breath, and when I'm less fit, I need to rest on the way up a few times. But the round trip burns about 300 calories over 3 or 4 kilometers and keeps me confident that I can manage a few days in the saddle over some rough terrain. And I know I can pick my bike up just in case it goes down unexpectedly. I know that dropping the bike is mostly due to my own mistakes in riding, but I've also had the bike fall down because the side stand was on soft ground. Look at that, sinking in there. Good thing this is going to fall over before too long. Dropping the bike is one type of emergency, but there are many different things that can happen. I made a video about fears of solo moto camping, and there are too many to go over here. So let's break it down to categories of emergency and how I'm prepared for them. The most serious is a trip-ending medical emergency, and if that happens, I have a Garmin inReach to notify anybody for help. This little device could save your life. I keep it activated year-round on the cheapest plan, which is about $13 a month in Canada, and then I buy the $59 a year extraction insurance. So if I need to be helicoptered out of some remote location, I'm not going to go bankrupt. So I often travel in the US, so I carry traveler's insurance as well, because our free Canadian health care doesn't cover us when we're out of the country. But those kinds of needs are the worst case scenario. More common are mechanical problems with the bike. I'm not a mechanic, and I probably have worse than average mechanical skills, but I have sufficient knowledge to do regular maintenance on my bike. On the trail, I can fix a flat, clean and adjust the chain, and check and tighten nuts. The worst problems I've had have to do with things shaking loose, so paying attention to any new rattling sounds is important. I also carry a booster that can start the bike in case of a dead battery. There are lots of things I can't fix, but starting a trip with a bike that I know is working well means I have the best chance of avoiding any mechanical issues during the trip. And for us older riders, there may be medical non-emergencies that arise. I have to eat carefully to manage my blood sugar. I probably don't have to tell you about back pain. My emergency kit includes ibuprofen and muscle relaxants, as well as band-aids and regular first aid items. I've woken up with back spasms and got back spasms from bending over to do work on the bike. These things happen, and they diminish the pleasure for a day or so, but they don't have to be trip-ending. While I was doing that, I got a back spasm, so I'm in a bit of pain now for no reason. I lost a half an hour or so. Sometimes people tell me that they don't want to moto camp because of sleeping, but I know that sleeping is important, but there's lots of ways to adjust our sleep during our moto camping trip. As we age, sleeping becomes more problematic. That's just a fact of life. And when you're not in your own bed, it gets even harder to get a good night's sleep. but it's still important, especially when you're on a trip that's more than a couple of nights long. If you're with a group, then the evening is time for some camaraderie, but you still need to get to bed early enough to get your rest. I'm not going to lecture you about that. I'm lucky that I can sleep on a fairly thin sleeping pad, but thicker ones are available that can get you a couple of inches off the ground, which is good for both insulation and comfort. If that's not enough, foldable cots are available, like this one from Campwell, which will have you off the ground but folds into a bag that's only 37 inches long by 8 inches. An alternative is the Big Agnes inflatable, which can stack double for a taller single bed or fold to a wide double bed if you're traveling with a partner. It only weighs about 7 pounds and folds into a slightly smaller package at 28 inches long. Either of these could be strapped onto a side pannier across your back seat. Another part of problem sleeping for me is waking in the night. You guys know why I wake at 3 a.m. and no, it's not the wolves. A small leftover drink container means I don't have to leave the tent. Often I can't get back to sleep right away, so rather than lie in the dark listening to unknown sounds, I usually have a small rechargeable or solar lantern so I can read for a while before drifting off. So you need to know your limits. I know that solar motorcycle camping is not for everyone. You can push your comfort zone, but you need to stay safe, so you need to know your limits. I've gone too far too many times, and I've even made some videos about it. But I've learned to always carry the food and water that I need for the night, so I can stop wherever I want. In this case, I'm talking about stopping or changing plans during the day when things don't go as planned. I think I'm gonna go back. My motto is that every ride is an adventure, even if it doesn't go the way I expected. I also know that there are places I'd like to go that I can't or shouldn't attempt by myself. I'm joining another rider to do a BDR this summer. You know, I'd love to ride the Dempster Highway to Tuktoyaktuk on the Arctic Ocean, and I know other riders who have done it solo, but it's definitely outside my comfort zone. Last summer I was just a few kilometers from a connecting road when the route I was on faded into a meadow. I chose to exit the way I came in rather than risk getting bogged down in what could have been a mud pit. It's okay to change your mind. Sometimes the route is too much for your skills, sometimes it's too much for your bike. It's hard to know when you hit these. See, that's sandy. That's sandy. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna decide that this is not for me. To paraphrase an old saying, it's better to have gone out and turned back than never to have gone at all. So do what you love. In the end, if you love nature and you love motorcycling, get out there and ride. If you're capable of spending a night in a tent, there's not much more peaceful than those moments when there's nothing stirring but the sounds of nature. I don't know how long I'll be able to continue, but if you're out there riding in your 60s and beyond, I'd love to hear from you in the comments section. As I watch my friends age, I see that one by one they need to cut back on their old activities. But I have a friend who's still flying at 80, and others who are hiking, cycling, and motorcycling in their 70s. As Robin Williams said in Dead Poets Society, you need to suck the marrow out of life. I hope to do the same, and I invite you to join me on my adventures as long as I have the strength to ride a motorcycle. Don't forget to like and subscribe if this resonates with you.